Hi everybody, Stuff and Things here with something a little bit different that I want to share with you all. I've changed up some of my routine for stretching and strengthening. I'm really trying to build some more strength in those knees and make them more resilient because my knees are not great, but I'm not going to stop skateboarding, and so I've got to find a way to make it work. But before we get in too deep at all, know that I am not a doctor. I said this on a different video where I talked about my stretching. Go seek medical attention and a medical expert, but this is just my routine, what I do. Start light, go at your own pace, do your thing. I'm not a doctor. Okay, so I'm just starting off with a forward fold with my legs extended. I like to do all my stretches for at least 5 good long breaths. And I am going to keep this video in real time because if you want to follow along, sort of like a workout video or a yoga video, please join me and do these with me. It might help your routine and help you find things that might work really well for you. Next, I go into a butterfly to open up those hips. And again, remember to breathe. Take your time. So those are just to kind of get a couple of things opened up so that I can move around. Now I'm going to lay down and pull my knee into my chest. This is really good for the hips and the knee a little bit. Since I am targeting the knees with some of these exercises, it's really good to hit all the muscle groups around the knee to get strength and flexibility built up so that I can reduce injury and reduce pain. Then I'm going to go into double knee into chest, pull both of them in, try to get nice and tight into a little ball. And then I like to rock back and forth side to side. I sort of do like a little back massage on my back. I go until my elbows hit the ground on either side. This tends to just kind of feel good, but it helps me move my core around too, which is always a good thing. And then from there, it feels sort of natural to go into a figure 4. So put one foot up on the top of your thigh close to the knee and then grab behind that other knee and pull it in. Now I can't pull it in very far. This is where I'm not very flexible. This is really good for the hips and glutes and hamstrings. This is an area where I tend to be pretty tight, so I might spend a little extra time here. Don't pull too much. You definitely can overstretch. You just want that nice little stretching sensation, but you shouldn't have pain when you're doing any of these. Again, hold each position for about 5 long, deep breaths. That's what I like. I don't like to stay in one position too long. Again, I think you can overstretch, but I know everybody's different, so make sure you're doing what feels good to you. And now one that I love for my hips and lower back is you're going to grab behind the knee and cross it over and roll onto that hip. And you're going to keep the opposite shoulder down toward the ground as much as you can. So you're doing kind of a spinal twist here. I often find that this one will make my lower back pop in a good way and relieve a whole bunch of tension in there. So this one to me is really valuable. And of course, going to the other side, do everything both ways. There might be one side that's tighter than the other in certain muscle groups. You'll probably notice that, especially since if you're a skateboarder, you might not ride the other way very often. And so you develop muscles on one side and not the other so much. So we really want to stretch everything out and get back closer to even if we can. If you saw the video that I did before about my post-skateboarding routine, those were all old stretches, but this one is one I've added recently and it feels really good. I think this is called deer pose if you're doing yoga. So I line up the one leg with the outside of the mat and the other leg, the shin, with the other side of the mat. You want right angles here. The one knee needs to be bent at a right angle and the other one does too. And what I'm trying to do is I lean back a little bit and sort of push my hip down into the mat, into the ground. And this relieves some tension kind of on the side of the knee and the inside of the thigh for me, and kind of up by the hip socket as well. So in this position right here, I'm pushing my left hip down into the mat. And so you can get more or less of a stretch depending on how much you push. Then we're going to come up to all fours, hands and knees on the ground, and then I'm going to put my toes together. My knees are wide on the edges of the mat, and I'm going to drop my butt back into my heels. Right now what I'm doing is doing a stretch for the top of my foot. I'm pushing into my ankles. It's a good little ankle stretch. So first I'm doing an ankle stretch, and then I'm going to go into the very familiar child's pose as a second stretch. So I get a little bonus one here by doing the ankles. Now I'm into child's pose, where I get to stretch out a lot of the area of the back and the hips. And then from child's pose, I'm going to go into downward dog. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to try to make right angles with my knees, hips, and arms and shoulders. Then I'm going to push up into downward dog, and I like to kind of go back and forth between the legs and give one side a stretch, give the other side a stretch, kind of paddle it back and forth. Tends to feel pretty good, and I think I'm gaining flexibility because of it. Now this next one is a big one, and this was a game changer for me and my knees. What we're going to do from this position is I'm going to attempt to go into a plank. It's not a great plank because it's pretty heavy on the wrists. And then very slowly sink back into your feet. Let those knees bend. And when you get very bent, extend and go back up again. I'm going to do this 5 times, and I'm up to doing it 5 times. When I started doing these, I was doing it twice, and then I was up to 3 times. Emphasize going really slowly through this motion. This was painful on my knees at first when I first started doing these. Like I thought, oh, I can't do this, it hurts. But if I move really slowly with really good control, I can do it, and it's really helping my knees gain strength. And I don't know what it's doing, if it's making them more flexible, but it is feeling better and better as I do this exercise. So one more here. This one is a bit of work. You're getting a lot of workout in your shoulders, in your core, in your knees, everything. So come up and relax a little bit. Now I like to also do a yogi squat to turn my toes out a little bit, put my elbows against my knees and push out. This is just another good one for the hips. But standing in a yogi squat is also good for stretching out that patellar tendon, that area below the kneecap. And then from here, I'm going to go to standing, and I'm going to put my hands on the ground in front of me. I tend to go to fingertips. And then I'm going to slowly go into a squat. I'm up on my toes a little bit. My heels don't touch when I do this. I don't know if that's right or wrong. That's just how I do it. And then slowly push back up to straight. So I'll get a little bit of a hamstring stretch from that straight position, and I'm trying to increase mobility in my knees. And again, go slow and with control, and this might not hurt as much in the future. I think having your hands on the ground for this is great, because if you want to take weight off of the knees, you can lean forward and put more weight on your hands and take it away from the knees. So you can really dial this one in for what you need. If you can just do a bunch of squats, that's great. But if you do squats and it hurts your knees, like it tends to do for me, then I lean forward, put some weight into my fingertips, and I can relieve some of that pain. But as I do this more and more, I'm getting stronger, and I'm starting to get a lot of the weight back into my feet and off of my hands. And then we're going to do one that everybody probably hates, and I hated it too. We're just going to do some squats. Go into a wide stance and then bend and try to touch that knee to the ground. I'm at the point now where I can do 5 on each side pretty easily. When I started doing these, I had so much pain in my knees, I could do 1, maybe 2. Again, move really slowly, because moving slowly will help you identify where your range of motion is, where your strength is, and you will build up slowly. Don't just jump right in and be like, I'm going to do 10 squats on each side. There's no way I could do that. I'm up to 5 on each side, and I actually feel really good about that. But these are really helping me get that knee strength back. And I can see it when I skateboard now. I'm getting less and less sore when I do a session of skateboarding, especially if it's one with a lot of jumping. And I've been doing a lot of jumping lately because I'm trying to learn a new trick. But I'm actually doing really, really well as compared to maybe 3 or 4 months ago when my knees were really hurting and I was like, okay, what can I do on a skateboard because my knees hurt? I don't want to do too much. I was really worried, but I'm getting better because I've been dedicated to some of these exercises. And then I'm up to standing, and I'm going to do one more stretch, and this one's kind of a modified quad stretch. You're going to grab the inside of your foot. Don't grab from the outside. You're going to slightly bend the knee that you're standing on, squeeze your knees together, and then that foot that you're holding, push it into your hand, and give yourself some resistance for 5 deep breaths. It's kind of a weird one, but I think this was another game changer one that is really helping me balance out the flexibility of my knees. It's a really good stretch on the muscle group above the kneecap, and I think I really, really needed this one. So this one's really doing a lot of work. And so that's my new routine for stretching and strengthening my knees. I hope you enjoyed it. If this helped you in any way, leave a comment below. And if you like this video, let me know. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.